What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's presentation of E1T1 Enterprises, collaboration with Sensei, Nate Bigz, and Emperor Soveryn from the West Side of Life. You already know, the Bay Area representing, E1T1 is all about linking with our brothers and sisters that are all around the world in our great nation of the America. You already know what it is, you know what I'm saying? And today's topic is going to be about freedom, what freedom means to you and me, and how we can, shape our way of getting together and collaborating from our different points of views in our different worlds, and basically coming to a consensus that we already have a good body of knowledge based on our Constitution, right? That basically gives us inalienable rights that aren't given by government, but given by God, right? They just a contract by us and the government that shows that, number one, the government has to protect our rights, right? They're there because we are the people that are giving consent to be governed. Am I right about that, my brother, Mr. Emperor Sovereign?
Yeah. Freedom is not something that is awarded or given by other people. It's we have, even if you don't believe in a God, right? Even if you don't believe in a God, where do you believe your freedom comes from? Your freedom isn't given. It can only be violated. It can only be violated by people who don't care about your rights. So we have to assert our rights. And the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, these are supposed to be ideas that okay, look, increasingly I've noticed that all this stuff that we're seeing in other countries with the COVID passport, a freedom passport, it's like you have to be a good little bootlicker in order to exercise your given freedoms, right? They let you don't have freedom until you meet their demands. And if you have to meet demands to have freedom, it's not freedom.
Facts.
So I think of it kind of like people who don't believe in a God, and it's like, well, where do rights come from if I don't believe in a God?
Yeah.
Think of it like how an insurance company, if a lightning hits a tree and then it smashes into your garage and destroys stuff in there, maybe a car that's parked inside, the insurance companies will label it as an act of God. And I don't think that the insurance companies are sitting over there thumping on a Bible. What they really mean is like it wasn't caused by a human being. It just happened, right? So in that sense, our freedom, our liberty, the right to yourself, the right to defend yourself, the right to have a voice, that all these, that idea, the right to your own person, that no one can tell you what to do with your own body. It's like your personal space. And we all talk about having a personal space. That notion, even if you don't believe in an almighty creator, just understand that like you're born with this. These rights aren't given. You're born with it. They only are violated by others, and to recognize that violation by others is important. That's what's important to understand as a free person. That's how I see it.
That's right. And I see it the same way, more or less. We have, for lack of a better term, a political movement known as communism that's trying to stop our way of life. Our way of life has always been about, free enterprise, or what they call capitalistic domain, right? Where people can commerce and trade without a third party like our government, having the ability to prevent us. They're there to mediate. They're there for justice. They're there to equilibrium to make sure the contract is correct. That's what our judges are for our, the three parts of our government. And I think what's happened is because the youth are not being trained properly in school, there's a certain doctrine of Marxism that's being given to the children nowadays to embrace, right? Which not teaching our way of government, which is the three bodies that have what is called checks and balances, right? Those three bodies, you remember the names of them, my brother? The legislative,
the executive, and judicial.
That's right. And the thing about these branches is keep going. They all have different ways of basically, setting out the law, right? So the legislative drafts the law, right? And then they send it out to the judiciary, which is the Senate. And the Senate is the one that passes it through, voting on it, right? And then the president, the executive, he's the one that is the last one to make sure, right, that it either passes, right, or it gets vetoed, right? It gets stopped, to get kicked back, right? So these checks and balances are there to make sure that no power is absolute between all of these different entities, agencies. And I think we the people, we need to know those basic fundamentals of our system of government. Like back in when I was in high school, we had one class of civics, only one class. I believe civics should start all the way at your elementary level. And, because just like we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, right? That used to ingrain to us as children, right? What it meant for us to have rights that are indivisible. That word is very important, right? We need to get back to that, to actually, understanding that our children need to learn that they are God's creatures of love and compassion, and they have no right to harm someone else based on their freedom of speech being abused or them lacking the ability to have their freedom of speech being used, right? It was the First Amendment. They need to learn these first 10 amendments. And I think, we've gotten so far along away from that to where now it's about cancel culture. Do you agree?
Yeah. And we saw recently, people who I would have never thought about standing up for themselves and saying what they want to say and being shut down. I mean, have you seen what happened with Nicki Minaj lately?
Wow, that was interesting what happened to her. Wow. What was your take on that, bro?
Well, okay, so now we're getting to the point where it's not just someone like Alex Jones, or Gavin McGinnis or Laura Loomer, or President Trump. I mean, we should have known it was going to get like this, because when the president of the United States is being shut down, and on the same apps, the Taliban, are talking about beheading people,
seriously, and they're not getting canceled at all. They're not getting shut down, right?
Right. So we know it's not about that these people are promoting violence or promoting it. It's just the words they're saying. The words they're saying have a lot of power, a lot of truth, and now it's to the point where just asking questions, just asking. I don't think, as far as I know, Nicki Minaj did not say, "Hey, don't take the shot," or Pfizer's bad or anything like that. She was simply asking some questions.
Exactly.
Just out of curiosity. She how are you supposed to make a decision if you can't ask some questions?
Facts.
Right. And what the answer she got is, you're not allowed to ask questions.
Insane.
You're just supposed to do what you're told.
Wow.
Shut up. Take the shot.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that is just like out of a dystopian movie, man. This is getting out of hand. Like, and the sad part that gets me, and I'm going to be blatant when I say this, is the fact that hypocrisy, right? While President Trump was in office, right, a year ago, you had all these different riots by BLM and Antifa that were like, just out of there because they felt that he was a tyrant. And Antifa is supposed to stand for anti-fascism, right? Fascism being totalitarian and tyranny, right? But now we have mandates, right?
You know what? There's a term going around for this people. They everything they do, everything they name themselves after, it's actually the opposite.
I know, that's interesting.
Right.
That's right.
So I've heard this term for them called the inversion cult.
Wow. And yeah, that's
Because
yeah.
literally everything they do is the opposite of what they claim they do.
Definitely. You know, it's out there. Like, and I think we need to get back as a nation to a set of terms where we all can agree, no matter race, creed, or color, that we all have rights, right? That do not need to be trampled on, such as like the flag of the Marines that has a snake that says, "Don't tread on me." That means
Gadsden.
that, you know, no one should be able to trample on your rights, and you have a right to self-preserve yourself. That's what the 2A is. Do you agree with the 2A or the Second Amendment?
Well, you know, that's it's funny you bring the Gadsden flag up, because the Gadsden flag is very simple. It's, you know, people see it as a symbol of freedom. You know, the "don't tread on me."
Yeah.
You know, what it means is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Leave me alone. All right, that's
Relate.
that. Just to put it simply, that's all it means. You know, it's like if you see a snake hanging out outside, are you gonna go poke it? Are you gonna go mess with it? Like, just leave it alone.
Leave it
You know,
alone. Yeah.
the poor thing, the snake. You know, it's just an animal. It's one of God's creation. It's just doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lot smaller than you. You can probably hurt it
Mm-hmm.
if you're cruel, but at the same time, you go mess with a snake a little too much, what happens?
Gonna be, yeah, you know what to get, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. What they say back in the Navy when we used to meet a lot of our Texan friends, they used to say, "You mess with the bull, you get
Yeah.
the butt." So it's like, it's interesting to say that, you know, all that means, same thing: the right to privacy, the right to be left alone in your sovereignty, right, Emperor Sovereign? And that's an interesting name. You know, can you break that name of sovereignty back down for us? You know, so that our audience can understand what it means and exactly why it's very important at this day and time.
So Emperor Sovereign, so the name originally comes, it was inspired by, you know, me being here in San Francisco. There's a historical figure from the 1800s who was a man, an immigrant from South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He came to America, and he made a fortune, became one of the richest men in the city. But he made a bad investment on rice, and thought he would corner the market. And then a couple of ships came in with a bunch of rice from China, and it ruined him.
That's right.
Yeah, and this was all happening like during the, you know, the gold rush era of San Francisco. This was a Wild West town, really.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up, he disappeared for a while. I think like a year or two. Nobody really knew where he went, and then he reappeared as a seemingly crazy man. He wore a hat decorated with feathers and dressed in like I think like a Civil War uniform, and he carried a blunt sword, and he declared himself Emperor of the United States.
That's right.
You know, even though he had lost everything financially, he still had his dignity.
That's right.
And so he wanted to assert that in a admittedly eccentric way, by making decrees. He would go on the streets, you know, literally stand on a soapbox and talk about kind of like what we're doing. Like he sees the potential. He saw the potential of America. He saw the potential that our culture could bring. We weren't there yet. We're still not quite there yet.
Yes.
You know, we have work to do, but you know, we're talking about millions of years of human evolution, and only in less than 300 years, the United States has created a culture that rejects monarchies and absolute authorities. You know, and that is the foundation of the country. Now, the people who wrote that, they understood that a king, is the only sovereign, is the only one who's free.
Yes.
That's what they call a king, a sovereign, and then everyone else are his subjects.
Yes.
And they are subjected to his authority.
Yes.
And so even though the founders were, many of them were admittedly wealthy men, they were not truly free.
Yes.
I forget what the number of people on the people who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
I want to say like 30-40% of them died.
Wow.
And didn't even get to see the foundation of the country. They all they died. Their families were killed or starved or everything taken from them. They a lot of people who signed that document knew they weren't going to make it all the way through, but they did it anyway.
That's
And
right.
that's the thing about freedom. So Soveryn is I'm echoing the sentiment of the founders, and some people don't like the founders. They say, oh, some of them were slave owners, and they're products of their time.
Yeah.
They came, these people were born in medieval times, essentially.
Yes.
And it's like human evolution, societal change, they don't happen all at once. You got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and somewhere is, hey, I don't think God chose one person to be free and everyone else they're slaves.
That's right.
So how about the founders were like, we're all free, we're all sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a voice. We all should have a voice. And even back then, there were founders who believed that that these ideas weren't just for the white man.
Yeah.
Of course, there weren't enough of them to codify that into law in the very beginning, but the way that they wrote the document left things open for change to happen, relatively easily. And of course, there was the Civil War fought, and all that. But I forgive. We have to learn how to look at history, look at how things were different. Even now, think about how I just watched Team America World
Classic
again, and I was laughing so hard because it's so funny. But you could not make that movie today.
That's right.
You could not Hollywood would never make that movie today.
That's right.
And that movie, they call the actors the Film Actors Guild, and like it says fag, right?
Yeah, that's right.
On screen.
Made fun of that. Yep.
It says FAG, instead of SAG.
Mm-hmm.
The Screen Actors Guild, but or another part where North Korea's leader at the time, Kim Jong-il,
yes.
He's like he the way he talks is in a so like Seaver Rusri, like the way I'm so Romery,
right.
The way he talks, today you couldn't make that joke.
That's right.
Without the Twitterati coming after you and losing everything, getting canceled.
That's right.
But the thing about that movie is it really isn't racist. It really isn't. It's very smart. It's very intelligent. It is taking a lot of the worst aspects of American culture and pop culture and jingoism, that sort of top-down patriotism, not the grassroots patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
And it really fillets it, kind of like RoboCop did. It's taking a lot of the negative things about American society and then puts a microscope on it, or excuse me, a magnifying glass, and just amplifies it all up to 11. And it's not, we're not actually laughing at how ignorant or bigoted or seemingly mean-spirited things that the movie does. What it's really doing is it's trying to have us laugh at the worst parts of ourselves.
Yes.
You know, in an effort to expose it and to make us more conscientious of it.
Yes, to bring us more consciousness of, the stereotypes that we fall into, unbeknownst to ourselves, that we just get so used to. And I believe the propaganda of the media plays a major role in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, since we were children, you just, when we're at elementary school level, we don't think like that. But when we get to the high school, grade school level, around there, that's when we start getting into social norms, right? Of our peers. And we start, getting into these different characters, right? These different ways of being, and with that comes with, acting a certain way, to project a certain appearance, and that really is not our true selves, right? And as we get into the outside world, the workforce, that we still ingrained with these, stereotypical norms, and we start playing in these roles, right? And you're right. These roles affect things at the corporate level, and they affect things at the political climate of our social structure, and if we don't bring attention to them, right? Like these satires, and you always spoke on that in the Navy. You were very, very, I would say, diligent on that. You're the one that put me on the Boondocks. Remember that? You know what I mean? Before I knew about Boondocks, I knew about it in a Source magazine. That was a cartoon editorial, right? That used to show up every once in a while. But the actual anime itself that was, produced, you actually were the first one breakthrough that had that whole series that you gave it out to all of our, our shipmates on the boat, on the carrier. You put us all on it. You had us aware that, this is bringing to light things that, we don't like to talk about. But truth be told, we actually play these roles every day and we don't even see, right in our face. And the thing about Boondock, it's like it predicted a lot of things. That's the crazy part. It predicted a lot of stuff that was yet to come.
It really did. And there's stuff they say on there, I can't even say it.
Word.
But when it comes to art, we have to be able to allow art to say the things that maybe polite society shouldn't say. Not that we can't, against the law say, but like there's a lot of lines in that show that I wouldn't repeat,
facts. I mean, now
I would totally watch it and laugh. I would totally watch it and laugh when I watch it,
but now you gotta tread water, man. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to offend the wrong person that has power. Because one thing I've lacked, and a lot of us have lacked, is power, right? The voiceless have no voice when it comes to money. You know what I'm saying? It's like whoever has the most money, or what was the parable? He who owns the gold makes the rules, right? You know what I mean?
That's the golden rule.
Oh, it is. I didn't even know that was a golden rule.
Yeah.
Oh man, you just put me down. But I was also always thinking the golden rule was a Christian thing that was based on, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which is the same aspect. You know what I mean? Because that's the problem in our world. A lot of people don't want to treat people how they want to be treated. We want to treat people how we feel that they should accept to be treated. You know what I'm saying? Because we, have to fall into a control apparatus of what they call political correctness that can be steered to whoever's in control at a certain time. You know what I mean? So it's not really equal. Like there's no justice when it comes to that, and I believe that, no matter what, one thing I will say is everyone has a right to the free speech, but no one has a right to harm someone over that. You feel me? And more or less is, you and I, we took oaths to, to the Constitution to basically make sure that we could preserve the right for everyone to have that freedom of free speech. You know what I mean? And not to be illegally searched and seized of the Fourth Amendment. And one thing that's getting interesting, why I brought that up is because with the free speech thing, it goes with our telecommunications like we're doing right now. And, talking on our cell phones and things like that. And having that being monitored, by the so-called powers that be, or I like to call them the powers that were. Because now people, I believe, I'm an optimist. I believe people are waking up, and what we're doing, the divine work we're doing, is to try and help people wake up, to see and look at themselves, the man in the mirror, so they understand themselves better, right? By bringing these subject matters up, right? And like I was saying, telecommunications is now the way of the world. So when they censor you, when they take down your account or they shadow ban you, like that stuff right there, it hurts freedom, you know? And what do you think about that, bro?
Yes, and that's the entire point of that. You know, this erosion of our First Amendment rights, uh, you know, technically, I guess, hasn't come from the government, which is what it's supposed to stop. You know, it's the government can't step in and stop you from speaking, but instead, what they're doing is they're going, you know, now that all the corporations have essentially bought everything and own everything, you know, the land beneath our feet, you know, beneath the feet of the American people barely own anything in this country anymore. And so now, you know, now that the corporations own everything and they have such a strong connection to, you know, people in the government, you know, it's like a feedback loop. You have they help put the people in government by donating so much more money than the public can ever donate, you know, and so they give the candidates that will give them preferential treatment, they put those people in office.
Yes.
And the people in office turn around and say, hey, go ahead and censor you know, these people I don't like, you know, and they start with something that's seemingly reasonable, like, hey, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's people out there putting out information that could harm them. You know, on the surface level, that sounds like reasonable, you know, but that's only the beginning. Once you allow that to happen,
Yeah.
what's the next thing that's not good for society, supposedly, that we need to ban? And it just keeps going from there. Like, it started with Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And then it went to the president of the United States and Nicki Minaj.
That's right.
You know, and that happened so fast.
Yeah.
It wasn't really that. It was really, what, like 3 years ago that they banned Alex Jones?
Yep.
It wasn't that long ago. And now look where we are. They didn't take very long. You know, it's not even baby steps anymore, but they got to start somewhere. And if they can convince the public that vaccine misinformation, and then the next thing is you're not allowed to question the election, and the next thing becomes you're not allowed to make fun of the president. You know,
I know. Yeah, right. I mean, it's like more or less
we'll take it as a threat.
Yes, a threat.
Yeah, anyone making jokes about Joe Biden is a threat. We don't know if you're trying to, you know, harm the president in some way.
Right. And what's interesting is that, you know, the double standard, right? You know, we had media outlets that got on President Trump, you know, really hard. You know what I mean? They called the man a bigot. They said all these things, but at every turn, his policies never reflected that. And I'm just going to be honest. I look at the policies. I look at what's in black and white that we can reference, right? He didn't start a war. I mean, everyone would say they were afraid of him, you know what I mean, pressing the red button. You know, we're military, so we understand that, you know what I mean, those things are very serious. You know what I'm saying? Those allegations are very serious, right? And, you know, for him not to have done that, he treaded water and made sure that he could go around and do peace deals, right? And he reflected each thing that he did to try and bring peace. No matter what the media was throwing at him, it was always, his behavior wasn't what they were saying it was. Vices now, we have, you know, an issue where, you know, we have Afghanistan, and, you know, the world is seeing that, you know, we've started a quagmire that's not going to end well, right? The Taliban is feeling emboldened to now strike us as a nation, you know, and as we have to be very, you know, prepared, and we have to be very conscious that now they're enemies of our, you know, our nation that are actually being smuggled in our borders. If you want to get down to it, you know what I mean? There's enemies in our nation that's being brought in here under covers. A lot of people in the general public, they're not aware of that. You and I, we know that stuff. You know what I mean? We're aware because we actually pay attention to the intelligence. We read You know what I mean? And we look at different sources. We don't just get our, you know what I mean, our news from one source. And do you feel that, you know, it's very important for people to start learning these basic skills of searching for themselves, you know, using different sources, alternative sources, and putting in pieces, the puzzle together for themselves? That's like one of the rights that we have, correct?
Yeah, you know, the thing about that is, you know, you and I, we have a thirst for knowledge. We have a curiosity, and that curiosity is what got us to, you know, where we are. You know, that's maybe our preference, our personal preference, our talent. I don't, you know, not everyone is going to want to sift through all these different sources and then kind of make up their own mind. You know,
Facts.
it's like how let's see, imagine like when it comes to food, you know, a lot of people, some people like to learn how to cook, you know, and they get all the best ingredients and they look up some recipes, and then they sit there or stand there and they chop up the veggies, and they, you know, and they peel the other thing, and they boil that, and, you know, and then they bake this, and they kind of learn how to how to make food, how to feed themselves, you know. And then there's other people who never learn, and they go through the drive-through every night, you know, or they go to Safeway, you know, or whatever supermarket is in your area,
Mhm.
and they get the pre, you know, the pre-cooked chicken and the whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm guilty of that, you know, too. But I have learned, you know, learned how to cook and feed myself and use the oven, you know, not have everything pre-made for me.
That's right.
And when you cook for yourself,
Hmm.
you end up picking better ingredients. You end up making something that's healthier,
Yeah.
with more nutrition,
Hmm.
you know. And when you go get something that's pre-made, like fast food, or not even just fast food, some a lot of restaurants, even, you know, they use that they're not being health conscious about what they serve. And when you eat frozen foods, you know, there's lots of sodium and preservatives in there, and not as much in the way of vitamins. And so where I'm going with this is that uh, when it comes to news, it's similar to how you consume food.
Hmm.
Consuming news and consuming food can be similar, in that it's kind of a skill to learn how to cook. It's kind of a skill to learn how to sift through a lot of BS, because there's a lot of BS on the internet. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I read on the internet. It makes my eyes roll. You know, when I
Hmm.
read them, and much like that, I think a lot of people struggle with being able to take the time to do some research for themselves. You know, I've gotten into some conversations with people, including, you know, some family members who, you know, I'll say some stuff, it'll interest them, and then they'll go look on Reuters, right? And it's like, oh well, Reuters says that that's not true,
Hmm.
and that's it. That's the extent of their checking, their fact checking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then if I send, well, here's this doctor saying, you know, this, or here's this lawyer or professional or somebody saying otherwise, and that maybe Reuters is not a good source for this, at least for this particular subject, because Reuters and this other company share executives.
There you go. Who benefits? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
You know, if Reuters points out something negative about the company that, you know, in the story, then that executive that works at Reuters and who works at that company are, you know, that person's going to miss out on possibly millions of dollars. You know, so it's better for Reuters to just straight up not tell the truth.
That's right.
And
Hmm.
I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of these big brands that have all been captured. You know, at one point, can you imagine the Washington Post
Oh
like
man.
Like the Washington Post is not the Washington Post from Watergate.
Facts. Facts, right? And who owns it now? You know, for our listeners out there to go do the research, who owns it now?
Right. Well, look at there's stories from just a few years ago that were criticizing Jeff Bezos.
That's right.
Right. And now that Jeff Bezos owns it, it's nothing but puff pieces about him.
That's right. Yeah. You see the power. He who owns the gold make the rules. There we go. Yeah. Right. So he bought it out, and now he prints. You know what I mean? He gets those that run the editorials for him to favor him in light because he pays their checks. Yeah. Let's get it right. You know,
he pays their salary, and it's you know, I've been watching a new show out called Superman and Lois. You know, I mean, I've always been a fan of Superman. I'm watching it with a friend.
Me too, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, we watch. You watch it too?
No, I haven't watched it, but I mean, I remember all of the ones that came prior to that. You remember?
Right. All the different shows.
All the Dean Cain, the old ones, and all the above.
Yeah.
Small, all of those. Everyone should know these things.
So the Dean Cain Superman, as well as the new Superman, they literally have a plot in there about a powerful business magnate purchasing the Daily Planet. I guess in the case of the Dean Cain, Lois and Clark show,
yes,
there was an episode where Lex Luthor buys the Daily Planet, and when he buys it, Clark, Superman, he's working on a story about another company that Lex Luthor owns.
Wow.
that has really bad safety standards and has a strong possibility of causing a lot of harm.
Definitely.
And what happens after Lex Luthor buys the Daily Planet? He kills the story.
Yeah,
he tells Clark, "You're not allowed to tell that story."
Yeah.
Right? And Clark is like, "But what? I'm not allowed to do my job? I'm not allowed to tell the news? Wow. I'm not allowed to warn the public?" Why? The Daily Planet in the world of Superman is the world's most famous, most prestigious newspaper.
Definitely.
And now it's owned by the most evil, corrupt person in Superman's world.
That's right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And also in the new Superman and Lois, almost the same exact thing happens. This business magnate named Morgan Edge, he buys the Daily Planet. They fire Superman, they fire Clark. They keep Lois because she's like the most famous journalist in the world, or at least was at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But she's tries to tell a story that makes Morgan Edge look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan Edge says, "No, you're not doing it. This is my paper, and you're not going to publish a story about me." Mm-hmm. You know, and so she goes in and gives him a piece of paper and says, "All right, well, if that's the case, here's this. It's the best writing I've ever done."
Mm-hmm.
And he opens the letter, and all it says is, "I quit."
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so these are the stories, you know. Superman is a character that came out of the Great Depression.
Yeah, facts.
Right. Mm-hmm. He's a character that when he first appeared, he was he stood for truth and justice. Mm-hmm. He stood against the powerful powers in the world. In America, you know, the robber barons, the corrupt politicians,
yes,
greedy bankers.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't like fighting doomsday or, you know, fighting big alien threats. He was literally fighting for the working man, speaking truth to power.
Yep. And speaking of Superman, one movie that I think is a lot of people need to go back and watch, the one with Christopher Reeves. Superman 3 with Christopher Reeves and Richard Pryor. That one right there was very interesting. That's the one where actually you had like a bad guy, I forget his name in there, but everybody go research and look that one up. He basically was like a guy that wanted to take over the world and use the world's resources on himself, right? Control the oil, control the power, control, you know what I mean? All the resources of the oil, of everything on the planet, to have everybody give up their sovereignty. correct? So it's like we are witnessing that happening right now.
Yes, we have some like comic book James Bond level supervillains who really do have so much power that they control a lot of the reins of society.
Mhm.
You know, and we're so used to seeing that in comic book worlds.
Mhm.
I think for some people it just seems like that can't really happen in the real world. You know, just like a man can't fly, you know, and like Superman, then then apparently they think that a Jeff Bezos can't buy Washington Post and do the things that Superman fights against.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah,
Facts. Facts.
you know, Superman's a metaphor. Superman is all of us.
All of us. I like that.
All of us.
Totally. And this is a time
Yeah.
for all of us to, step out of our Clark outfit and
Yeah.
don the super red on our chests, because we have to have courage now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We have to have courage in each other. Partnership is the key. People have to, put away their fundamental differences and look at their fundamental similarities. And that similarity is our law of our land, our Constitution. It cannot go nowhere. It should not be changed. It shouldn't be in any form taken away, because if that happens, we see nations like China. It is what it is. I mean, it is what we know what happens when communism takes over, like, Bolshevik Russia. You know what I mean? People die and suffer. You know what I mean? And it's never a good outcome. So I can never understand when people, advocate for that, because, history has shown, even with Venezuela, that things get out of hand, people suffer. And we have to ask ourselves as a nation, no matter who you are and what political belief you have, do you really want your family, your loved ones, and your fellow man to suffer? Because you're going to suffer with them. Like, let's keep it right. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you might be pushing for a certain ideology, but let's get it right. Are you going to benefit at the table with those that are going to be coined term the elites? You know what I mean? Right? Like, for instance, I'm gonna give you this example, right? Now, supposedly, with the mandates that President Biden had put out, he exempted White House staff in Congress. And to me, it's like, wait a minute. So if it's so important for everybody, why would you do that? Like, it should raise a red flag for everybody.
Yeah. Not just them, but like Congress and like pretty much anyone in power. Also the post office.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot about it.
Yeah. You're going to tell me the post office, if this is so serious, you're going to tell me the agency that sends people to everyone's home, they're not going to be vaccinated?
That's deep. Yeah.
Does that make any sense to you?
Yep.
I mean,
good point.
Yeah, these aren't people that just stay somewhere in a federal building. These are people that come to your home, that touch your property.
Yep.
They touch the mail.
Yep, they touch the mail, and you touch the mail. Yep, it gets transferred. Yes, correct.
Right. So if this is such a serious thing, if the vaccine is all about saving lives, why are you going to send a bunch of unvaccinated people to every single one of our homes every day that aren't vaccinated?
Mm-hmm. And another thing, right, is those that are coming across our borders, they're not being told to be mandated as well. That's the thing that's interesting, right? They're not given that, ability, because we don't know what they might have. Let's be honest, that's the I would say the dysfunction that we need to all start paying attention to, and we need to start calling out. You know what I mean? Facts. We should use fact-based evidence. We shouldn't use nothing out of how we feel, because I think emotions have gotten out of hand on all the sides of spectrums of the political climate. And everyone needs to have rationality at this point to ask, wait a minute. Why are these things happening to certain people but not to others that might pose a more threat, right, to our everyday way of life and custom? You know what I mean? We got to look at things for what they are and not what we think they are, right? No matter how much, they tell us, the sky is falling, we need to go outside ourselves and see if it is. You know what I'm saying?
I don't believe anything they say, or I believe very little, and it's like, I used to say, I don't believe anything the news says except for maybe the weather. but now I don't even believe that.
Wow. Yeah, because things can change with that. Yeah, we have so much technologies out there now. They come out with it now. They let you know we have cloud seeding, right? That's another name for geo engineering.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we do have that. That used to be a conspiracy, but it's no longer that. Now it's a fact. You know what I mean? They're coming out letting you know that. So another thing that's very important is the use of our cyber security network, right? We've had multiple attacks for the last couple months, right? First was a pipeline, right? Oh no! Actually, let's reverse back. It was actually a solar winds. Everybody go back and remember that one. That got swept under the rug. Solar winds. It was like a program that's used in many different agencies as well as different corporate public offices and private offices, right? And it was hacked, right, by adversaries. Then we had the pipeline that really destabilized a lot of individuals, like hasn't been seen ever. And now they're talking about oh wait, don't forget our telecommunications companies such as T-Mobile and Sprint were hacked, right? These are all things that people need to start paying attention to. And the last one, but least, that DHS and FEMA always talk about is everyone should go to ready.gov, right? And CISA, right? The DHS agency, CISA, right? Cyber Information Security Agency. And they need to go pay attention to how to protect their networks and how to prepare for if we ever have what is called an electromagnetic pulse attack or a solar flare attack that could shut down our power grid, right? Because that'd be devastating, you know? So people need to start learning how to basically have what is called recovery and disaster preparedness type of measures. And those are the resources you can go to, ready.gov, everybody, because this is very important that people start paying attention that no one is coming to save you. You are your own help. You have to be Superman to protect yourself and your loved ones. Step up to the plate, everybody. You know, there's but so much that, you know, our agency like FEMA can do, you know. That's why they have these resources and tools for everyone to go use. And I believe that it's up to us and we got to remember who we are as American citizens again, right? And actually get into the mindset, not just as an American citizen, but get into the mindset of learning what is an American national. Aha, they never talk about it. You ever seen an application where they tell you, choose if you're an American citizen or an American national? They never explain what an American national is. And what we need to understand is, and this is my understanding of it, I have to go do some research myself, and I hope everyone does their due diligence, but a national seems more like on the level of a sovereign to me, right? So that means that you have, as a sovereign, have to take care of your own self. No one can do that for you. You feel me? You can't give that right up because if you do, then that person or whatever has control over you, right? So this is the time that we all have to go back and look at ourselves and know our rights. That's number one. Know our rights, our inalienable rights, right? Regardless of what media is telling us and whoever outside of ourselves is telling us, the only thing that matters is freedom first. Feel me? So definitely, how do you feel about that? About our whole cyborg? Because it's all entrenched at this point, you know?
Well, you know, to borrow a phrase from Jen Psaki, I wanted to circle back because I looked this up a little earlier. So you mentioned the Gadsden flag, right?
Yes.
And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do it in this kind of way here, but so I just want to remind the audience what the Gadsden flag is. It's okay. Come on. All right. Essentially, you've got the "Don't tread on me." Is that backwards?
No, we can see it. Everybody out there, you should be able to see it. You should be very familiar with that flag. You know, the Gadsden flag. You know,
that flag is one of the oldest symbols in our culture. It predates actually the American flag, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Yeah. See, a fact of history right there. Thank you very much, Soveryn.
Yeah, but and then Antifa, they actually have their own version, you know. And so remember, people who show this flag, the symbol of freedom, all they're asking for is to just leave me alone. You know, I'm just minding my own business. doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Antifa walks around. So it's a symbol of freedom. It's a symbol of respect others, live and let live. And then Antifa has this.
Wow. Well, oh my goodness. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. We will tread. And it shows that fist, the Marxist fist crushing this poor animal who simply wants freedom.
Oh my goodness.
So they're not, these people are not going to just let us, live our lives. They want, here, I have like a,
oh my goodness.
yeah. We will tread, meaning these people do not want to leave you alone.
No, not at all. Not at all.
They don't want to leave you alone. And so this is not even about liberals and conservatives or left and right. I mean, even a liberal understands personal space and respect for others and tolerance for others.
Mm-hmm.
There's another image that I've seen, and I want to show this, probably the last image I'll show you before, because I know it's annoying to watch me look for stuff, but I'm trying to remember what it said. Well, go ahead and tell me some more stuff while I look it up.
Yeah, definitely. More or less, I'll talk about this flag that I just saw. I've never saw that insulting flag in my world. That is crazy, and that is outlandish, and that is a disrespect.
Yeah,
especially to the Marine Corps, but the armed forces, those that have died to serve our nation, as well as, our nation itself. That is just insane. You know what I mean? And it needs to, we as, I'll say, brothers and sisters in our nation, regardless how you may feel about anyone next to you, you owe it to yourself to make sure that you protect your rights for yourself. Because obviously, these individuals, they do not care about your rights and my rights or our rights, right? So we have a duty to step up to the plate and make sure that we secure our rights and do things by the law. I urge everyone to look at your state, your local laws. And there's one company out there that basically makes sure that they preserve and give the rights of the 2A, Second Amendment gun laws for each state. One of them is called USCAA, right? USCAA, right? And you guys go out there and research them so you can learn. Wow. Woo! That is a powerful message these people are putting out there. That's crazy. So you see that? Everyone that leans to that political mindset, they're spray painting and telling you that, hey, like in the words in the hood that everybody say, everybody can get it, right? You know what I'm saying? So more or less, you guys got to also, know your laws to preserve yourself. Your 2A, the Second Amendment. We all have that right, no matter how you feel, So I'm an advocate for the 2A. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I follow all the applicable laws of my state and in every other state out there. And you use the USCAA site to get yourselves aware of, your lawful activities on how to preserve your right to exist in peace, in privacy, so you don't get treaded on, right? And that was interesting, Emperor Soveryn. That was interesting. Wow, you blew my mind today. Today you giving me things on your side of life, the West Coast, that I believe our listen. See, the media wouldn't even show you that. That's the thing.
This is what we're dealing with. The media and all the political establishment and the schools and all of this. They're all trying to paint this as a left versus right thing, and suddenly they've moved the window. I'm a San Francisco born liberal.
Yeah,
always have been.
Mm-hmm.
My high school had like 3 white kids in it. But then we had everybody else. It was a huge mix of people of everything from every corner of the world except for white people. We all got along. Even though we spoke different languages at home, we were still connected by this fabric of American culture.
Mhm.
We all were, I would go to a friend's house or at a school event and eat lumpia.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't know how to make lumpia. She's not from the Philippines, but I love lumpia.
Mhm.
And I've had all kinds of different types of lumpia because every home made it differently,
Mhm.
Soccer practice, we'd have people bring food from their culture, from their culture, they bring it and it becomes a part of America. That is a part of American culture, is bringing things with you from the old world, from where you left, because it's part of who we are.
That's right.
Every part of American culture, you can find its connection to uh, uh, to the old world, and,
Right.
or to from wherever the origins of the immigrants that brought it here.
That's right. Mhm.
Yeah, think about like rock paper scissors, right?
Mhm.
Rock paper scissors was brought to America by Japanese children.
Wow, for real?
Yeah, they brought it. Japanese kids in San Francisco were
Mhm.
playing rock paper scissors. They call it something else.
Mhm.
They I forget it. I forgot how what the words were, but they had 3 different words they used, and it sounded similar to how rock paper scissors in San Francisco. We don't call it rock paper scissors. We call
Wow.
it Rochambeau.
Whoa. Whoa.
And because Rochambeau sounds similar to what the Japanese kids were saying.
Definitely.
Like
Yeah.
it's an Americanized version of what what they say in Japanese.
Wow.
And but when by the time it left San Francisco and left California and spread across the country to playgrounds all over America, probably Rochambeau was a sounds weird. Like, what does that mean? And so
Definitely.
they
Definitely.
simplified it even further, and it became simply rock paper scissors,
Yeah.
which is honestly what they say in Japanese. That's what they're saying in Japanese.
The same. Yes.
They're
Exactly.
saying rock paper scissors in Japanese.
Definitely, but still preserving, you know what I mean, the cultural heritage. That's just
Right.
wonderful. Yeah.
Right. And see, so there's so many things like that. I've talked about, like, the burrito. A lot of people think it's Mexican food. It's not. It's a California, specifically, really a Northern California, working class, food.
Wow.
It's like the Latino, American version of like a hamburger. You've got, instead of bread, it's a tortilla, and
Yep.
and the meat is, whatever meat you choose, with some rice and some cheese, and it's all wrapped in foil.
Yeah.
It's like that's such a that's such an American thing to do, to wrap something in foil like that, and that's how it's served.
That's right.
And then you peel the foil off as you eat it.
Yes.
Like that's not something that exists in Mexico, the burrito.
Wow.
And there's so many things like that. And so American culture has always been this amalgamation of other cultures,
Yes.
and that is who we are. I once mistakenly said that America's lack of culture is a culture in itself. I said that probably like 15 years ago.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because I was doing what a lot of lefties are doing right now with this cultural segregation. They talk about cultural appropriation.
Mhm.
If these cultural appropriation people were around, 50, 60 years ago, we wouldn't have burritos. We wouldn't have pizza. We wouldn't have so much of what makes our culture so interesting and varied.
Definitely.
Because you would have these cultural segregationists saying, no, if you're this color, you can't make that. If you're white, you're not allowed to learn how to make sushi or California rolls.
That's right.
California rolls, sushi with avocado.
Mhm.
That's American.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't eat avocado in Japan. I made that mistake. When we went to Japan,
Yeah.
I went to a restaurant. I went to lots of restaurants, but I learned very quickly, I saw some really tasty looking sushi, and it was really good, but I saw one with a lot of green in there. And I'm like, oh, it's like a California roll. And I put it in my mouth, and no, that was wasabi. That was a big chunk of wasabi in there.
Wow.
They do not use avocado. That here in America, they put the wasabi on the side because they know most Americans are not going to be able to handle a chunk of wasabi in every single bite of sushi.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah. And that's how we Americanized it. We just don't have the palate for it. And you can develop it. And if you want, there's all the wasabi available to you if you want to put more on there. But in Japan, they just assume that you know how to eat wasabi, no problem. So they just slather that sushi and wasabi, and then my dumb ass goes in there, and I'm like, ooh, avocado.
Definitely.
That's what American culture is. We take and we adapt. It's not about, oh, we take it, we make it better. No, I'm not saying that. Not at all. Absolutely not. The Japanese food, the sushi I had in Japan, I've never had sushi that good since, unfortunately.
Definitely.
But the food that you can get here is pretty close, and it is very good. And I just think that cultural segregation is not the answer. We have to acknowledge that, and it's not just America. We think of what's more British than drinking a spot of tea.
That's facts.
Well, actually, the Brits took it from the Indians.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's where they learned how to drink tea, was when they owned India, and they had the East India Trading Company.
Yeah.
Bringing all that tea over to Great Britain, and that's how the English learned how to enjoy tea. How about pasta? We wouldn't have lasagna and spaghetti and linguine and all the different types of Italian pasta. We wouldn't have that if there hadn't been trips to China,
that's interesting.
Asia. Who was it? Was it Marco Polo?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Or is that someone? It's Marco Polo, right? Who went?
I believe so. Yeah, he went all the way around the Horn, right?
Yeah. I forget what Italian it was that went to the Orient and came back with spices and noodles.
I think it was Marco Polo. He went all around through Africa and went to the other side of Asia, correct?
Something like that. Yeah,
I think so.
I'm kind of unfamiliar with that story, but whoever it was, the Italians didn't invent pasta on their own. They learned from the Chinese, and then what did they do? They made it different. They adapted it to their palate, and so now we have modern day pasta is something that originally came from Asia. I mean, that's the history of the world. We're all just a mishmash of different cultures and different languages and backgrounds, and it's not just the food we eat. It's the language we speak.
Facts.
Even our language here in the United States, we speak English, but there's a lot of German in there. Words like kindergarten.
That's right. Yeah.
There's so many things that we take from other languages. We don't really have. We didn't make up our own word for tsunami.
Yeah, that's right.
Call it a tsunami, and it's a Japanese word.
Facts.
And this whole thing about controlling language is all about controlling you. It's about controlling thought. They don't actually think it's racist. They don't really think that. What they really want to do is control you, because if they can control the words you say, they can control the parameters of thought. Because language and the way that we see and perceive the world has a direct correlation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a few examples. You know, there's a snow, the word snow, the Inuit in you know, the people of the north,
Yes,
the native,
Alaska. Yep.
right,
Those in the North America.
right.
Yep.
They have dozens of words for snow.
Mhm.
You know, we have like snow, hard snow, fluffy snow. You know, we can kind of put an adjective to describe the kind of snow, right? But there's no set like words for snow. But in the Inuit languages, they actually have like dozens and dozens of words for snow, and they all mean different things.
Definitely, definitely.
So they can discuss snow at a higher level than we can. Our language simply isn't equipped to compete in that realm of talking about snow and ice. You know, they can just say one sentence and then it would take us a paragraph to describe what they just said.
Definitely.
And that's how you know, and so that's one example. Or how about the story about a girl in the, I think it was in the 1970s, who was horribly abused. She was locked away in her basement, and her father would you know, abuse her, and it's a really awful story.
Mm-hmm.
But we see what happens to a human being if they are in captivity. They're
Yeah.
given no formal education. No one speaks to them.
Yes.
They don't speak to anyone else. They become like a feral
Yes.
child.
Yes.
And so when the police finally rescued her, she was like 16 years old. And by that point, she didn't know how to speak. You know, she was really only capable of conveying discomfort and anger, you know, sadness, very like basic thoughts,
Definitely.
you know. And so her development was completely stunted
Yes.
because of the conditions that she was living in.
Yes.
And she had almost no way of verbalizing her complex pain because she didn't have the words to think of these concepts. All she knew is that she was unhappy and was in pain. You know, that's really all she could convey. Um, and then one more example, color. You know, did you know the Greeks did not have a word for the color? The ancient Greeks, you know, like we could look at what things that were written by Plato,
Yes.
and you know, he mentions the word black and white, you know, many hundreds of times. They mentioned red and green, you know, dozens of times, but
Yes.
they never ever mention the word blue.
Wow.
They never mention the word blue. And why? Why not? And they perceived blue
Mm-hmm.
to be a part of a spectrum of black.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so to them, they had no concept of blue because blue was just light black, essentially. You know, and so they did not they hadn't developed, I guess, the understanding of blue. To them, that they would describe the sky as like red or green.
Yes.
You know, they describe the ocean as black.
Wow.
Uh, so it was like, it's kind of strange. But that's the power of words. You know, words can open up new concepts.
Yes, they can. New
Yeah,
worlds, right? New
new
ways of
concept, new
perception.
worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, new worlds to explore. You know, even today, there are tribes in Africa that
Mm-hmm.
have many words for green. They have words for different types of green. You know,
Yeah.
but if you show someone from Michigan a bunch of different green colors, and you ask them, what can you name these colors, they just be like green, green, dark green, green.
Right.
You know, like it's all just green, green, green. They don't really see it. If and so that's the thing about words. You know, some languages can facilitate deeper thought into a subject than other languages can.
Definitely.
So this idea of controlling language, of telling you what's okay to say, you know, when they say, oh, you can't say that because someone might be offended by it.
Definitely. Yep.
They don't want you even exploring that realm of thought.
Definitely.
That's really what they want. You know,
Yep.
under their new rules, movies like Team America, World Police could not exist because they break all the rules today.
Definitely. Unless you have that free thought without no boundaries, right? And everyone, you choose to either explore it or you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. The people who, you know, the people who made that movie, the South Park guys, these guys are not racists. They are not bigots.
Mm-hmm.
They do not believe in a racial supremacy or a racial hierarchy. I don't, you know what, if they do, they do a good job of hiding it. All right. If they do, their comedy certainly doesn't
or espouse that.
You know, what they did was they took ignorance and they put it on blast.
Yes, they sure did. Everyone knows that. Everybody knows. Everybody has seen that for themselves, right? That's a part of a staple of our culture now, right?
Context matters.
Totally.
You know, now they're coming after Black people for saying the N-word.
I know, that's interesting, isn't it? Right? Yeah. like when you start dealing with the changing of the rules of our reality, you can only come down to one way of expressing what's happening to us. Control.
Yeah. And George Orwell talked about this with Newspeak, right? There's no, they took the word bad out of the dictionary in that story. And so the only way to express yourself is like good and not good.
Yeah.
I believe is what the words were. And not good was as bad as it could get. You know, like that was the only word to talk about something negative. That's not good. But they had more words for positive, right? They had double plus good.
Yes, that's interesting.
Right? Yeah. So
and I think that's where our children's imaginations is going to change the way of the future if we can allow them to be free in thought, right? Because they're going to create new paradigms of expression, and we have to make sure that we are at the forefront to explain to them the gift that they have, right? So keep going, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, double plus good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
So
no, you can't say bad.
Oh, my fault. Not good, right? Or something like that. But so it's been very interesting, and we just got into the next topic of discussion for our next episode that we will be doing on our E1T1 Enterprises West Side Connect, right? With Emperor Soveryn and Sensei Bigz. You know what I mean? Holding it down. You know, we like to say all is one, all is well. But the reason why we say that is because we all share the same gift, and that's the gift of having inalienable rights, which is freedom, right? And as we've seen Emperor Soveryn live up to his name today to explain to us, right, the parts of our freedom that even through history we didn't never know about. And coming to our future episodes, I know Emperor Soveryn has way more information to spark free thought in our minds for us to research and investigate, because he's blew my mind today. He's opened my mind up to another spectrum with all of these facts of our history that we are never privy to because we are never told, right? Mm-hmm. We assume we know, but until we actually do the due diligence to do the research, we still live in ignorance. And that's what they're using as a weapon on us, ignorance.
Yeah, you want to control the narrative, you erase the past, you know, you rewrite the past, you ignore, they want to ignore all the interesting and positive aspects of our culture and replace it with all the negative things, which there are, of course. You know, it's like I talk to some people and they feel strongly about the past. It's because they don't have a balanced view of it. They only dwell on the negative aspects and are never exposed to the good things, you know, that about our past. And there's so much good stuff.
So
You
much.
know, we are. How do I phrase this? You know, with every sin and every act of kindness, we build our future.
Definitely.
And so you got to take the good and the bad. I think that quote is from uh what was it? Cloud Atlas.
That was a
Really
good movie. I liked it. It was deep.
recommend that movie. There's a book. The book is better. The movie's really good though. But yeah, that concept of with the negative, the good and the bad, we take the positive and the negative, and we build our future off of that. And so we got to do it together. We can't just shut people down because we don't agree with them. You know, I had, when I was last story before we go, when I was in school, in college, this professor, you know, where he was talking about stuff, and I brought up the idea of tolerance, right? Because he's already pushing in this idea of like the time for tolerance is over. You know, you're with us or against us. That he's like that, right?
Oh my goodness.
I cut him off at the pass. I'm like, you know, I think tolerance is very important. He's like, yeah, but is tolerance enough? Right. So I framed it in a way that I knew he would understand.
Definitely.
You know, I said, you know, you should expect tolerance from others, because you know, some people won't agree with you.
Definitely.
And you maybe believe that they don't deserve to have a voice because they don't agree with you because you're so right.
Yes.
So what happens, you know, let's say somebody, Mormons come to my door and they want to talk about the Latter-day Saints, I don't know, crazy cult stuff that I'm not into. You know, I really don't agree with the Mormons ideology. I think it's crazy. But I don't treat them coming to my door with any sort of disrespect. I don't attack them. I don't berate them. I don't belittle them or dehumanize them. I tolerate them.
That's right.
I tolerate it. You know, I understand that they're there. They live here. They're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wish no violence upon them. As long as they wish no violence upon me, they can go on living their whatever it is they do, you know, and I'll go on doing what I do. That's what America's about. We have to tolerate each other at worst. You know, that's the worst. That's worst case scenario is I tolerate you. You know, and so when I framed it under, oh yeah, Mormons, obviously this professor hates Christians, he hates Mormons, so he realizes, oh well, yeah, I'm not gonna like do anything bad to them. I guess since I don't like them, I suppose tolerance is all they should expect from me. So yeah, he accepted my assertion of that we should be tolerant of each other. And that goes all ways. You can be tolerant of the Mormon, and the Mormon can be tolerant of the LGBT person walking down the street.
Yes, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah. I saw, as a kid, I saw a gay couple walk past a church with two nuns in front, and they said hi. They waved to the nuns, say, "Hey, sister." And the nuns would they didn't say anything, but they just waved back. They just went, smiled and waved.
That's right.
Do these people have conflicting ideologies? Probably. But what they showed was more than tolerance.
Yeah.
To be fair. You know, they were amicable citizens. You know, they both understood that this city is all about being who you are. And if who you are is being a nun, or if who you are is being a guy who wears assless chaps at the Pride Parade, it's just another part of the fabric of San Francisco.
It is what it is.
And we're getting away from that. The new left, they don't care about coexistence.
Yeah.
I mean, when we saw the Gadsden flag crushing, saying we will tread, that means the time for tolerance is over for them.
Right. And that's not a good thing.
And that's not the American way.
That's not the American way at all.
No.
So definitely, it's been a pleasure. And I can't wait for our next Westside Connect podcast. This is just the beginning of something that's going to be fruitful, beneficial to, encourage partnership, encourage respect, and encourage preserving the right of all of our freedoms. So in closing, I would like to say thank you, Emperor Soveryn. I salute you. As always, your intelligence and your enlightenment are needed in this day and time. And both of us and our team of E1T1 Enterprises is going to expand consciousness back to unity as much as we can and invoke tolerance so everyone in our great nation can withstand our future that's ahead of us, which is to go against those that will take away our freedoms because of their selfishness. So thank you very much, my brother in arms. Thank you.
Of course, I'm happy. I'm really happy we did this, and I look forward to more of this. I always feel good. That spirit of unity. Doesn't it feel good when we get to talk about things? And I mean, this is what the First Amendment is all about. It's just about, I know there's going to be people out there who don't agree with us, and that's okay. If you want to listen. Maybe you'll agree with some things, maybe you won't. It's all about figuring out what's right for you, what's right. What's right for me may not be right for you, but there must always be respect for one another. And so the peace, love, unity, and respect.
Most definitely. Like we like to say, love, peace, truth, freedom, justice equals equality, right? And respect is all that we need to do to make sure we maintain it. So from me to you, Sensei Bigz, Emperor Soveryn, all is one, all is well. Take care. Catch you on the next ride.